Hi, welcome. I'm so excited to see you again. Nice to meet up. Yeah. So, you mentioned on the phone that you wanted to find some good sweets type recipes for the upcoming holidays, correct? Yes. Yeah, baked goods are always my absolute favorite part of the holiday season. So, really excited to look at some recipes with you today. The main book that we're going to be looking at is actually this one. This is called Simply Sweet Nostalgic Bakes, and this is a book by Emma Duckworth. I think I got this book at, must have been Barnes and Noble a really long time ago, but it's definitely a good one. It says 55 elegant takes on comfort classics. So, I've got a lot of great options in this book. And I know you've been watching lots of the Great British Bake Off. Yes, just as I have. So this is a British book. So it's like nostalgic British baked goods, which I think is fun. Yeah, it's a nice like twist on stuff that we would usually see, especially for Thanksgiving. Yeah, so I've got a couple options in mind. Let's see here. So the book is split into a couple different sections. They've got the first one here, scrumptious cookies, brownies, and slices. So that'll have a lot of good options. They've got comforting pies and tarts. Ooh, that sounds nice. Memory making cakes. Yeah, cakes aren't something we usually do a ton for the holidays, but something to think about. This one is puddings to give you the warm fuzzies. Again, pudding's not something Americans usually do a ton, but maybe something different, something interesting, which I know you said you were looking for. Yes, absolutely. And then there's some like down memory lane snacks and some frozen treats. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe not so much for this time of year as it's getting so cold, but might be nice to look at anyway. So, when you mentioned the kind of thing you were looking for, I started looking through this book and a couple of my others, and I noted down some pages of recipes that I think it would be nice to look at and go through. So, do you mind if we start there? Does that sound good? Awesome. Okay, so the first one that I thought sounded really good for Thanksgiving and wouldn't be too far out of the realm of normal. So I'm just getting a piece of paper here to write down some notes about anything you think about these recipes. Wouldn't be too far out of what's normal for us are these white chocolate and macadamia nut blondies. Yes. So kind of a play on like that classic cookie, but in more of a bar form. Yeah, so let me just read you the little blurb here. This will make 16 blondies. How many people did you say were coming again? Yeah, let's just start with Thanksgiving. Let's just think about Thanksgiving for now. Yeah. Okay, so probably like 20-ish. Yeah. 20-ish. Okay. So this will make 16. You could double the recipe, or you could also make a couple different things. Yeah, that might be fun. Okay, so we'll note down favorites. And then I'll take note as well of the quantities that each recipe makes, so that when you decide, we can look at and make sure that you have enough for everyone. Okay, so let's get back to the blondies here. So this little blurb here says, I was first introduced to blondies while I was living in Australia, as blondies are a big deal on their sunny shores. Ashamedly, before that, I had never heard of them. Where I worked for nearly 10 years as an interior designer, there was a fantastic cafe in a shopping center opposite us that would sell the most delicious white chocolate macadamia blondies. So as an ode to the copious amounts that I've devoured, I created my own version that I hope you'll enjoy as much as I did for all those years. That's lovely. So this calls for white chocolate, unsalted butter, brown sugar, eggs, some vanilla, flour, baking powder, salt, macadamia nuts, and sea salt flakes, which are optional. Yeah. So what do you think? Does that sound anything that would be up your alley? Okay, I'll put it on the maybes. We're not 100% sure. They do sound good. Yeah, and it's kind of similar to a brownie. And I've had blondies. Yeah, but maybe not quite special enough. We'll see. Okay, so let's write that down. Let me fix this paper. Macadamia nut, blondies, fields 16, and that's on page 27. Okay, so we can come back to that. The next option that I thought looked really good are these espresso millionaire shortbread bars. Yeah, so millionaire shortbread is a layer, traditionally it's a layer of shortbread on the bottom with a really thick layer of a creamy caramel. So not too chewy, not too runny, just like whipped and sort of creamy. It's really delicious. And then on top of that, a layer of chocolate. And this recipe adds to that a little bit by adding in espresso powder to the caramel mix. So it takes it up quite significantly, I think. So this one says, what's not to love about a layer of buttery, crumbly shortbread slathered with oozing caramel and topped with decadent chocolate? These bars are a delicious British classic at heart. Here I've included espresso powder in the caramel layer, which, despite being only a one-ingredient addition, totally transforms these millionaire bars. So they've got 3 separate sections here of ingredients. There's a section for the shortbread, which contains flour, butter, sugar, egg yolk, vanilla extract, and salt. For the espresso caramel in the center, it calls for condensed milk, unsalted butter, some light brown sugar, some golden syrup, which I've used in the US as Caro syrup mixed with a little bit of honey. Caro syrup being corn syrup, so any kind of corn syrup, and then some honey as well, and that gives a very similar flavor. Sometimes in the US you can find golden syrup in certain grocery stores' international sections, but I have had a little bit of difficulty finding it. But like I said, usually that's a reasonable substitute. And then it calls for espresso powder and salt, so that's everything for the caramel. And then the chocolate layer is just dark chocolate, butter, and then a little bit of white chocolate for some decoration. So what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I am a huge fan of the caramel chocolate combination. It's just so delicious. And when you add a little bit of the shortbread in, it just changes the game. It's a little bit more lengthy of a bake, which might be nice. Yeah, so it's a little bit more special. It feels a little bit fancier for the occasion. Okay, this also yields 16 bars. So I'll write this one down as a favorite. Yeah, and then we can come back to it if there ends up being lots of favorites. But this just to me feels very holiday-ish. Okay, so we'll write that down. Espresso. Shortbread. Yes, and that's just try it in case we want to come back to that. Okay. So the next one I've got noted here is, oh yes. So those are actually, let me double check here. Yes, those are actually the only two sort of bar type recipes that I had saved. So now I've got a couple of tarts and pie things to look at. Yeah, so a little bit more traditional Thanksgiving with a pie, which might be nice. But these recipes are definitely a little bit different than I would usually make for a traditional Thanksgiving. So let's take a peek here. I've got this apricot almond Bakewell tart. And a Bakewell tart usually contains frangipan, which is a mixture of almonds, some flour, and some flavorings to sort of make a really flavorful filling for the pie. So I'll just read to you what this says here. This will yield 1 9-inch tart. So that's somewhere between 10 and 12 slices. Yeah, so it would go well to pair with some other things. So for this one, it says, my grandparents lived in a beautiful spa town of Buxton in Derbyshire, northern England. And we'd make the 2.5-hour drive up to visit them. We'd often stop to stretch our legs and have a tea break. I distinctly remember stopping off one time in the market town of Bakewell and being introduced to the Bakewell tart, which the town is famous for. I was bowled over with how delicious the combination of short crust pastry, jam, and frangipan filling was in a tart. My version is an ode to summer, with lemon in the filling and icing in the seasonal apricot within. Just thinking of this tart makes me smile. Yeah, definitely maybe a little more summery, but it might add some nice brightness. Yeah, so this one you do need to make your own short crust pastry. Calls for flour, sugar, salt, butter, sour cream, which is surprising to me. I didn't know that. Egg, milk, jam, and then some fresh apricots. Yeah. And then, like I said, for the frangipan, I feel like I'm saying that wrong. Yeah, I know. It's kind of hard. Anyway, hopefully it's right. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So for that filling, you need butter, sugar, lemon, eggs, almond meal, which I believe is just almond flour as I know it. Ground almonds, essentially, I think. Flour, vanilla, almond extract, and some salt. So again, and then we also need for the top of that, so this is a 2-page recipe, so this is definitely a little bit more special, a little bit more involved, which might be nice. Could also tip us over the edge of too involved. We have to stay reasonable. So we also need for this lemon icing, which is confectioner's sugar, lemon juice, and then toasted slivered almonds as well. They do note that baked tarts usually include an icing layer, but if it's too sweet for you, you could omit the icing and dust with confectioner sugar. So that would be an option too, to make it a little bit less labor intensive. Yeah, I guess it just depends. So what are you thinking about those flavors? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so another maybe. Yeah, I'm into it. I think it's good, but maybe doesn't ring super true of Thanksgiving or the holidays. Yeah. Yeah, okay. We'll write it down and we'll come back to it. So let's see. Almond. Bakewell. 42. Okay, great. We'll come back to that. Next thing I've got here, I think I've got maybe 3 more options we can look at here. 4 more options. The next one I've got is called, this one gave me really good Thanksgiving vibes. This is a chocolate pecan pie. Yeah, pecan, pecan. I struggle. I say pecan, personally. But this one is similar to the traditional Thanksgiving pecan pie, but it does add that element of chocolate, which I think personally helps cut through some of the really almost sickly sweetness that pecan pie can be. Yeah, 'cause it's just like the nuts and sugar, essentially. So I think the chocolate adds an interesting element of bitterness to the party. Makes it a little bit more interesting. So this one, again, would yield 10 to 12 slices, which I'll write down. And then the author has written here, pecan pie is possibly one of the most nostalgic bakes that can grace a dessert table for many of my American friends across the pond. Just especially for us, eh? My version adds chocolate to the filling so that you're left with a gooey, soft chocolate pecan filling surrounded by super flaky all butter pastry. This indulgent, extra tasty pie is perfect for any Thanksgiving table. She thought especially of us. Oh my gosh, I feel like it's a sign. Okay, let's see here. So, for the short crust pastry, they have listed here that we're going to need flour, salt, butter, water, egg, and milk, which makes sense to me. It's pretty basic, not too difficult to make, really. And then for the filling, we need butter, dark chocolate, espresso powder, which is optional, eggs, brown sugar, maple syrup, molasses. See, this is interesting. Usually I've just used corn syrup to make pecan pies, but I'm guessing that the molasses and the maple syrup add a little bit more flavor and interest, so I like that as well. We've got vanilla extract, salt, pecan halves, and then just some things to decorate as well. So that is a little bit complicated, but might be a good play on something really traditional. Oh, that one, okay, that one's a definite winner. I thought so. I thought you'd love that one. Okay, so we're for sure doing the chocolate pecan pie, which I'll write up here at the top. Okay, and then that is going to serve 10 to 12 people. So do you usually do the Thanksgiving meal as a lunch or as a dinner? I do lunch as well. And one of the reasons why we always do lunch is so that we can have leftovers for dinner, just built into the day. And so maybe we want to plan for enough desserts for 2 rounds, plus maybe some like additional snacking. Yeah, so if we want to serve 10, I'm sorry, you have 20 people, right? Yes, okay, so The pie will serve 10 to 12. We could make 2 of those pies, and then that would be 1 slice for everyone plus a little extra. Yeah. Or we could always have more options. I know, I like the idea that everyone could have a slice if everyone wanted a slice. I know, it feels like odd to me to not have enough for everyone to potentially have a slice. Okay, alright, so we'll plan on 2 of those pecan pies then. And we'll see that we've got a couple options. We'll see what else you think. Maybe we could do a second option, couple more. Okay, yeah. It's never bad to have leftover dessert, is it? People usually will take some of that stuff home pretty easily. This looks like more of a Christmassy option to me. Let's see. This is a semolina cake. Yeah, it's got orange, honey, and fig. Oh, honey allergy. Gotcha. Okay. So we'll steer clear of some honey, of any honey options. How do we feel about cheesecake? Possibly. Okay, so let's read through this cheesecake option. This one is one of my favorite because it includes the flavors of white chocolate and raspberry, which I think really bump it up a notch. And it's also, again, one of my favorite things ever, a no-bake cheesecake. Yeah, so you don't have to mess around with the water bath, trying to not get a crack in the cheesecake. They are so hard when you bake them, but no-bake cheesecakes are super easy, and I actually prefer the texture of them. So this one, again, will yield that same 10 to 12 slices. So again, we'd probably just double and make 2. So let's see, the author has written here, to bake or not to bake. When it comes to cheesecake, it's not to bake for me. Made this way, I find good cheesecake so light and easy to indulge in. The buttery biscuit base is topped with a smooth white chocolate cream cheese filling, which is offset by a fruity, tangy raspberry sauce and extra fresh raspberries too. I made a version of this cheesecake early on in my marriage, and it's been a favorite of ours to make and enjoy together ever since. So this calls for, so we've got a couple different sections of this recipe. The first one is for the base, which is a biscuit base, or what I would call a graham cracker base. She's got, calls for digestive biscuits or graham cracker pieces. I know that you can get McVitie's digestive biscuits in, again, the international section. I eat those. My husband adores them. So you can get those there, but you could also just use graham crackers. Depends on your preference. Yeah. And then for the filling, the cheesecake itself, it calls for white chocolate, heavy cream, cream cheese, sugar, confectioner's sugar, and vanilla bean paste. I'm assuming you could also use vanilla extract, or it'll just affect the quality of the flavor a little bit, but yeah, exactly. So then on the top, it calls for some raspberry sauce. That's granulated sugar, cornstarch, lemon juice, and then fresh or frozen raspberries. Sounds a little intimidating to put it all on the stove, to make a sauce out of it, but I've done that several times myself. Super simple, way more simple than you would think. And it's got kind of a bit of a wow factor to it, doesn't it? Yeah, with the sort of stark white and red. It's festive. Yeah, I like that. And again, because you're not baking it, it seems pretty easy. Yeah, doable for sure. Okay, so let's write that down as a maybe. Oops, sorry. There we go. Let's write that down as a maybe then. Okay. oops, sorry, bonked you there. I've got two others. Actually, just one more. Yes. Okay, so the last one I thought we could take a look at is this sour cream blackberry cake. So this is actually called sour cream blackberry cake that your Nana would love. So it's definitely one of those nostalgic, cozy kind of recipes. Yes. So this one again would yield that 10 to 12 slices. So we could double. It says here, we should all have that recipe in our repertoire that our Nana would love. Something simple and adaptable that can be made for when your beloved Nana might drop by for a cuppa, or that you can surprise her with when you visit. This cake is exactly that. A super tender sour cream cake with the incredible addition of Earl Grey tea in the batter and juicy blackberries throughout. Fragrant, delicate, fruity, this cake has it all. The best part is that you can omit the tea leaves and substitute any fruit you would like. This, unquestionably, is one of my family's favorites. So this seems really, really simple. It calls for butter, sugar, some Earl Grey tea, eggs, flour, baking powder, sour cream, vanilla, blackberries, some coarse sugar, and then confectioner sugar to dust as well. Yes. Yeah, so what do you think about that one? Yeah, it sounds a little bit lighter, that's for sure. It might be nice to have something a little more snackable. Maybe that could even work as, mid-morning with coffee kind of thing. Yeah, and that's nice for the day before Thanksgiving and the day after as well. Okay, so let's think here. 20-ish people. I think that's all of them. That's all of the recipes that's all the recipes I had noted. So if we've got 20 people and we want to do 2 of the pecan pies, so that will give everyone a slice of that. And then, let's see, are you leaning more towards the espresso millionaire bars or the cheesecake option? Okay, yeah, I kind of thought the same. The chocolate pecan pie and the espresso millionaire's bars are sort of similar in flavor profile, whereas the cheesecake is a bit more of a contrast. How would you feel about going with the cheesecake? I think that's a great idea. Okay, so we could do 2 of the pies and then 2 cheesecakes as well. And that way everyone could have a piece of each at each meal, or if people choose to have the same thing twice, odds are everyone will get what they were hoping for. So 2 pies, 2 cheesecakes, and then did you want to do also the sour cream blackberry cake as a sort of breakfast with coffee type cake? Yeah, and it's always nice to have an option like that because people don't typically want to eat a large breakfast before the Thanksgiving lunch. So maybe yeah, I agree. Okay, so, and the recipe does mention that you can omit the tea leaves and substitute any fruit you would like. So maybe it would be nice to make one of the traditional blackberries, and then, because that will serve 10 to 12 people. And then, do you have any fruit that is a particular favorite or that someone in your family really enjoys? Yeah, absolutely. So strawberries are definitely a favorite of mine as well, and they go really, really nicely in cakes. And they're such a crowd pleaser. Absolutely. Okay, so what if we did, like I said, one of the blackberries, and then one of them you could omit the tea leaves and do a strawberry based cake instead. That sounds fantastic. Okay. So now that we've got all that squared away, let me just go over it one more time to make sure that you feel good about it and we have the right quantities. So we've got 2 of the chocolate pecan pies, which will serve 20 to 24 people total. Then we've got 2 of the cheesecakes, which will also serve 20 to 24 people. And then 2 of the sour cream cakes, one in blackberry and with the Earl Grey tea added, and the other in strawberry. Yes. How would you feel about possibly adding a little bit of lemon to that strawberry flavor? Fantastic. Yeah, I always like to add something a little more acidic with strawberry because strawberry is such a sweet fruit. It adds a nice boost to the flavor, I think. Makes it taste a little more special. Yeah, so I'll just do a lemon and strawberry with that one. Fantastic. Yeah, it'll be simple. I can just add a little bit of lemon zest. You'd be surprised how far that goes. Absolutely. Okay, so how are we feeling? Do you feel like you've got a good plan in place? Fantastic. Okay, so I will get these things written up and in a nice list to you, and I can send you the recipes, and I'll send with the adjustments that I add to them, so adding that strawberry and lemon as well. Yep. And I will send you the recipes and a full list of the overarching ideas as well when you're going to serve certain things. Yeah. Okay, sounds fantastic. So let me just make sure I've got your email written down here. Can you give that to me one more time? And that's at Gmail? Awesome. And your number is, gotcha, 29. Okay, fantastic. So I think that is all we had on the agenda for today. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to talk about? Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping over. It was great to see you. Yes. All right, we'll talk to you soon.